What's up guys, my name is Erin and welcome back to another video on the channel. So today we are joined by an amazing guest, Dave Mackey, also known as my dad.
Hi.
Today is the first ever episode of the Selik 67 podcast, and if you guys didn't know, my dad is a massive Rangers fan and this is a Celtic channel, so you're probably wondering why have you got a Rangers fan on a Celtic channel. Well, the reason because of that is we're going to be talking about the Old Firm that is coming up this weekend, and because Celtic and Rangers are both in the Champions League group stage. So we've got some questions for each other to ask, and we're just going to have a talk about these following months. So, you want to do your questions first?
No, first I'd like to say, although a lot of people would say, why am I on a Celtic channel? A lot of other people might be asking and wondering why my daughter is a Celtic fan. That's maybe something that I have to address on a daily basis.
Yeah, we get asked that quite a lot when we go in people's houses and stuff. And it's an easy explanation to answer that question, and the answer is I used to support Celtic to wind up my dad, and now I actually like Celtic. And I think that you don't need to support the team that your family supports. Support the team that you like.
Ooh.
Right. Let's get started with the questions.
Ask your first question on the Old Firm games first.
Okay, so we've got 3 Old Firm games and 3 Champions League related questions. So should I ask all my questions first, or we do 1-1-1-1?
We'll do 1-1-1-1.
Okay, so my first question for the Old Firm. This can be any player, by the way. But who do you think will be the star player of the game from either team?
The star player of the game, so the man of the match, basically.
Yeah.
Easy answer to that. The star player of the match will be the best player that's available for both teams. And the best player for both teams, by a country mile, is Big John Lundstrom.
And what about from Celtic?
That's kind of in a wee bit what I'm going to ask you in one of my questions. So I won't answer too much, but I think it's probably Celtic's best player will either be Callum McGregor or Shota.
Fair. Right, are you going to ask your Old Firm question?
Yeah, my first question is a dead easy one. It's one that everybody will be asking up and down the country for the next 3 or 4 days. What do you think the score will be? And I want an honest opinion, not just, it's going to be 9-0.
I mean, it was 9-0 against Dundee United. But to be honest, I feel like it might be a scoreline towards Celtic. I think that we definitely do have more advantage of winning the game as we are at home. Although technically that doesn't mean anything. But I do think it will be quite tight because I don't think Rangers will want to lose 3-0 again. But I think the score will be 3-2 to Celtic.
Remember last season, there was 5 Old Firm games. Rangers won 2, Celtic won 2, and there was 1 draw.
Yes.
And Rangers have just went to PSV Eindhoven, a really good team in Europe, on their park and won 1-0.
Is PSV really a good team though? Are they actually a really good team?
Well, yeah. They've got one of their players that's just about to sign for Manchester United for 30-odd million.
Just wait until we beat Real Madrid.
Right, that's going into the Champions League questions.
Right,
okay, so your second question then. Sorry, my answer to that question also will be...
Oh, that's just because that was my question. Anyways, that was my second question.
So your second question is what the score will be? What do you think is Celtic 1, Rangers 2.
Okay, so we think that our teams will win.
Yeah, well, I don't think Rangers will be as an easy an opponent as Dundee United or Ross County or something like that. So this is the first time Celtic have played somebody half decent this season. They've not played any of the Champions League games, qualifying games. So this is the first real test for Celtic, and we'll see how they cope.
Now, it's your question.
Question 2. Okay, who do you think will be the most influential player? The player that you couldn't do without on your team. So if you had to choose one player, it could be the guy's injured just now. It could be that he's suspended for the game. But I just want to know who you think. It doesn't have to be the best, the most tricky player or tricky opponent. It's the person that you can't do without.
Well, it's kind of an easy answer. We can't go without Joe Hart. Joe Hart is our goalkeeper. He is an amazing goalkeeper. But if we're talking about outfield players, I don't think we can go without Kyogo. I think Kyogo, he has scored in the past 4 matches. He's scored the opening goal, and I think because he's got his hat trick yesterday, he's under a lot of momentum. And I think Ange will definitely start him. So I think it's definitely got to be Kyogo for our outfield players, because the pace is just extraordinary, and we'll beat Ryan Kent every day of the week.
He couldn't even beat eggs. So, in my opinion, I think the Rangers, the player that Rangers couldn't do without on Saturday is Čolak, top scorer in Scotland, and he's the only proper striker we have at the moment. So, my most influential player for the game that they can't do without is Čolak.
Right, my third question to do with the Old Firm is, we've kind of covered it, we've kind of not, but do you think it matters that you're playing away?
Home games, you've got an advantage with home games because there'll be, I don't know, 55,000 supporters for Celtic, and you'll only have about 1,000 supporters for Rangers. So the crowd will be behind Celtic. But it was the same when we played PSV Eindhoven at the start last week, where it was only like 500 Rangers supporters there, and they went there and they won the match. So it's a wee bit an advantage. But you know what the most important thing is? Getting the first goal.
Yeah.
Getting the first goal is the most important thing, because then if you score a goal early, that means that the other team have got to come out, and there's always a chance you can get them in the break and make it 2-0.
Although in the Old Firm where Celtic won 2-1 last season, Rangers got the opening goal and then went on to lose that game.
Yeah, but if you look at the stats for the team that scores the first goal 9 times out of 10, I think that was the first time that's happened, where a team had scored the first goal and then Celtic went on to win the game, the Old Firm game. That's the first time in something like 80 games that it's happened. So it just shows you the importance of getting the first goal, because it is really 9 times out of 10 they'll win the game.
What's your third and
my final question? Right, okay. If you could choose one player from the Rangers team, and I'll choose one player from the Celtic team that you wish you could just suspend for one game, as in, what player would you not like to see playing and starting for Rangers? Who do you think?
I'd need to go with Čolak. I think him versus Kyogo will be something big. But I really wish Čolak wasn't going to be there, because I feel like he'll definitely, if Rangers do score, he'll be the goal scorer.
And for me, Jota is the guy I would like to see, because I know Celtic have got some decent wingers, but that guy is probably the best guy, and he's the guy that can score from long range. He can take on and beat players, and yeah, so far this season he looks as if he's continuing from his good play from last season. So I would, if I was choosing one player that I would hope would be suspended for the game, it would be Jota.
Okay, so now we are going to be moving on to some Champions League questions, as Rangers and Celtic have both been grouped, and we've actually both got quite difficult groups. But my first question is, on a scale of 1 to 10 difficulty wise, how would you rate the group that you've got?
Very difficult.
So that, like, 10?
No, not 10. There was Group C was probably the hardest group.
Yeah.
And I was hoping to avoid that. But I think Rangers got a decent team in Ajax, who were the first seed, but I think they got the hardest seed from Group 2 and the hardest seed from Group 3. So they had Liverpool, which you just seen at the weekend, won 9-0, and then you had Napoli, who are currently top of Serie A for the Italian team. So I think Celtic have got it slightly easier, but it's still going to be very difficult for both teams. So what was the question? How do I rate my chances?
Yeah, difficulty-wise.
Difficulty, I would think that our difficulty would be 8 out of 10 difficulty.
I would say ours would be a 7. I think it's a bit easier. I definitely don't think we'll come first place. Real Madrid will take that first place, but I think it's possible that if we play well, not like last season, we'll get second place in that group and go through to the knockouts.
But the problem for Celtic is the very first game is away. Sorry, it's home to Real Madrid. Hardest game you've got is Real Madrid. The second game is away to Shakhtar Donetsk. So if you don't win the first game, and probably Real Madrid will beat them, you've got to win that second game. And if you don't win the second game, then the next game after that is up against Leipzig. And I know Leipzig are a good team. So it's the same for Rangers. They've got to try and get a win in their first couple of games before they play Liverpool.
So what's your first Champions League related question?
My first question again, let me just read it. Which player out of the three teams that Celtic will play, which player do you fear the most?
Well, it's definitely going to need to be from Real Madrid. Probably Real Madrid have got a lot of really good players, but I think the one to fear most will be Benzema.
Yeah. Benzema's got. Do you know what the Ballon d'Or is?
Yeah. He's won that, didn't he?
No, he's not won it, but he is the favourite to get the Ballon d'Or, and Ballon d'Or means best player in the world. And Lionel Messi and Ronaldo have won it so many times. Modric has won it, and Benzema is tipped to be the top player and win the award this year. So you've probably got a game against the champions of Europe and against probably the best player in Europe.
Yeah.
I would say it's got to be somebody like
Mo Salah.
It's got to be somebody like Mo Salah, but it's also, there's a guy called Diaz that plays for Liverpool. He looks a really good player as well. But probably Mo Salah is probably the most dangerous player that we would fear the most. Right, question 2.
Do you actually think that you'll make it through to the knockouts?
No.
You don't think that?
No, I don't think so. I think if you're going to do, well, we need to beat the Group 1 seeds Ajax. We would need to probably do really well home and away against Liverpool and home and away against Napoli, the current leaders of the Serie A. So yeah, I think at very best we could hope for, I think, is third place, which means falling back into Europa League, and I'd be quite happy with that.
Yeah, I do. To be honest, I do think Celtic could make it through to the knockouts if we're lucky. But if we don't, I just don't want to drop so much like we did last season in Europe. I want to at least stay in Europa League for a wee while and possibly get to the final. Conference League, I don't want to go to the Conference League at all.
Why? Why not?
Conference League is low.
No, but Roma won it last year. I would say Roma's a better team than Celtic and Rangers, but Roma won it last year. So there's good teams in the Conference League as well. And I think you might be pushing it a wee bit to get to Europa League final because there still is a lot of good teams. But Celtic's main game will be Leipzig because they'll probably get beat off Real Madrid. They've got a good chance against Shakhtar. It's the games against Leipzig that'll determine whether they will be second or third in the group.
So what's your second question for?
My second question to you would be, how many points do you think realistically Celtic can get in the Champions League group stage?
See, now
bear in mind it's 3 points for a win, and then you play 6 games, so there's a maximum of 18 points. Normally, teams round about the sort of 9-10 points mark will get through to the knockout stages. Maybe a wee bit more, but you would have half a chance if you got 9.
See, I think I'd be happy between 6 and 9 points. I think 2 or 3 wins would be really good. I mean, it's better than last season. Anything could be better than last season, but 6 to 9 points, I'd be happy with.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say for Rangers. Right, if Rangers got 2 wins and a couple of draws, I'd be happy with that.
So my final question for the Champions League: if you were to get battered by one team in your group, what group would it be, and what would the scoreline be?
If you were to get battered by any team in the group,
One team in your group, yeah.
it's probably going to be Liverpool,
What
away from home. Well, I'd like to think that you wouldn't get hammered, but you could easily see a 3-0, something like that, a 4-0 thing, depending on how well Rangers defend in that game. Rangers are away to Liverpool, even though they're the second group, the second pot team, I think will be harder than playing Ajax away, who are the first pot team. That's why I think Rangers were unlucky.
Do you think that Liverpool will play all of their good players against Rangers? Do you think that that Rangers are a big competitor to Liverpool?
Well, that's where it's better. It's probably in Celtic's advantage because Celtic play at Real Madrid first, but then they don't play Real Madrid to the last game. So by that time, Real Madrid might have already qualified, but that's the time they play their last game, and Celtic will they might rest some of the players against Celtic. But Rangers play Liverpool third game and fourth game, where there's still a lot of points to be got.
Yeah.
So Liverpool will probably be their hardest team both games.
Do you think that guys like Firmino and Mo Salah will be a big threat to, I don't know, Kent and I don't know, Morelos or?
Well, I don't know if Morelos is even going to be playing. If he needs to lose maybe a couple of stones in weight, though, looks it. But it's all dependent on how well Rangers can defend. If they can defend really well and not concede any goals, they've maybe got half a chance.
What's your final Champions League question?
Yeah, it is: what would you prefer, Celtic to win the league or Celtic to have a great run in the Champions League and get all the way through to like the semi-final, but get beaten in the semi-final and lose the SPFL to Rangers?
To be honest, I think that if we won the league, that would be brilliant because of the income. But then when you stay in the Champions League for long, you still get that income. I think it would be more interesting to watch Celtic get through to things like the semi-final because people would never stop talking about it. But in Celtic's favour, and I think what Ange would want to do is I think he would just go for a win if he thinks that no, I don't think this is our Europe season, then I think he would just start going for the league. I think that's what we did last year, and he decided he wants to go for the league first year as manager, wins 2 cups, and I think he was happy with winning the league instead of trying a lot in Europe.
So winning the SPFL is probably still more priority than the Champions League. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I would say that as well. I would think if Rangers could beat Celtic to the SPFL and even if we get knocked out in the group stages, I'd be quite happy with that as long as they win the league.
So that is actually all of our questions done. Is there any final thoughts that you would want to say for either of the subjects that we've touched on today?
Me? No, I would just say that I'm looking forward to the game on Saturday. I hope it's a good game. And then before you know it, you'll be on to playing the European games at the Tuesday, Wednesday after that. So it's all the games come thick and fast now.
Yeah. I hope that I'll be making a preview and post-match video for the Old Firm, so make sure you guys stay on the lookout for that. But if you did enjoy the first episode of the Selik 67 podcast, make sure you leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
Simple the best.